I want you to imagine yourself or someone that you love going through an identity crisis. Then I want you to pause for a second and say congratulations. You see, most people think an identity crisis is proof that their life is falling apart. But what if it actually means that their life is trying to come together? Let me explain. Before we can accurately talk about an identity crisis, we first have to understand what a crisis actually is. You see, the word crisis literally means a decisive point in the progression of a disease. In other words, it's the precise moment where the old version of a thing can no longer serve a purpose, it can no longer serve the host, and something has to change. And that change is usually good. And that's honestly this strange dual nature of an identity crisis because on one hand, yeah, it's a disease. I mean, it's uncomfortable, it comes with anxiety, it comes with confusion, isolation, impulsive decisions, even hurting the people that you love because you're trying to escape this tension of becoming something new. But then on the other hand, it's also proof that transformation is happening. And it clearly indicates that you're in this place where change is mandatory. Again, it has to happen. Your only available options are life and death, meaning you have to live up to your true potential or you have to die trying to wear this mask that you were never meant to wear. And that changes everything because crisis is the precise moment where you can actually start participating in the design of your life. But see, what sucks is most people completely misdiagnose what to do next when they're faced with this decision. They think the answer is seeking more validation. They do whatever it takes to get someone else to tell them who they should be. They try to find new friend groups. They start posting their life away on social media. They might even get a tattoo. They do whatever they can to get someone else to tell them that they're doing something right. And some people hide in this endless loop of preparation, like they're constantly getting ready to get ready. And they might even change jobs without any real growth or any preparation on the front hand. Maybe they go back to school because at least working to get a degree gives them something that they can say that they're doing productively, something respectable and noble. And honestly, sometimes y'all just go back because y'all tired of them nail net envelopes coming back every month. Yeah, we see you, no shade though. I completely get it. But the point that I'm trying to make here is we chase this feeling of accomplishment without ever moving the needle toward what we truly want, what truly brings us peace and fulfillment. We'll pursue almost anything except for actually living in and on purpose. And then there's what I like to call the most dangerous idea of them all. And that's the idea that you can find yourself. Like you need to go on this magical, mystical journey with a cup of ayahuasca tea and rediscover your inner child, right? And I'll talk about how that could potentially be the case, but it's not how most people think about it. Trying to find yourself the way that most people think about it is like finding oceanfront property in Utah. You'll never find it. Our identity isn't something that we find, it's something that we build through intentionality and choice. And that should make us feel empowered because now we get to design our lives the way we want them to be. So I want to help you understand this decision point that you're in so you can choose what's best for you. And I'm going to do that by unpacking who you are in an absolute sense, what it actually means to find yourself, and this one simple trick that you can use to design your identity from the ground up. So let's get into it. So who are you? Most of us struggle to answer that question because the language betrays us before we can ever even get started. You see, the word who is meant to point us toward personhood, yet we approach this question instinctively, and we answer it with what? We answer it with what we do, what we like, what we've achieved, what roles we've held or that we're holding. But a who is never a function, role, or description. A who is a being, and a being is tied to existence itself. And that's why at the most foundational level, the most accurate answer to the question, who are you, is simply, I am. But I have to be clear though, see, this is not a claim to being God. This is just an existential reality. When God said, I am that I am, he was revealing himself as the source of all being. Our I am is derivative, not divine. It's merely a confession that we exist. But to truly understand who we are, I think it would serve you if we take some time to unpack one of the most profound questions in scripture. A question so profound that it was asked only once in the entire canonical Bible. Instead of trying to answer the who, let's instead focus on the where. Job 38:4 reads, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? tell me if you have understanding. You see, I don't believe God was asking Job this question to humiliate him. Instead, I believe in part he asked it to awaken him, to give him an identity. I believe he was maturing Job through an initiation from concealment to revelation. And when we sit back and we meditate on that question long enough, we begin to realize something powerful. The real you was in God before the foundation of the earth. Let's look at Jeremiah chapter 1. This is a good one. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I have appointed you a prophet to the nations. Or how about Ephesians 1? And he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we will be holy and blameless before him in love. So who are you? What I've come to find is that even with that level of confrontation and clarity, most people will still struggle to answer that question. So let's move on to the next thought. So I want to take a moment and rearrange some furniture in your head real quick. You know that scene from the movie The Matrix where Morpheus is challenging Neo, he's trying to train him up, and he says, "What is real? How do you define real?" It's one of my favorite scenes. But that's really an interesting question, because when you look at it biblically, you'll find something fascinating. In the original text of the Bible, the words real, realistic, and reality are never seen in scripture, like anywhere. But why though? You see, if we're living in this reality, wouldn't God tell us what it is? The closest thing that we have to the concept of reality is truth. And if that's the case, then the one and only reality that we have in this world is faith. But how does that help us with an identity crisis? I'm glad that you asked. Let's look at Genesis chapter 12. Now the Lord had said unto Abram, "Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will shew thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee, and in thee shall all of the families of the earth be blessed." Now pay attention to the language that God uses with Abraham, because this is where everything starts to get even deeper. In Hebrew, when God tells Abraham to leave his country, the actual Hebrew phrase is lech lecha. And what's fascinating about this phrase is it doesn't just mean go somewhere. It literally carries the idea of going to yourself, going for yourself, or going for your benefit. Or more plainly said, God is literally telling Abraham to go find yourself. But wait a minute. How can I sit here and tell you that an identity is not something that you can find, and then turn around and tell you that Abraham had to go and find himself? And that's because Abraham's situation reveals something that most people miss about identity. Abraham wasn't wandering around trying to invent who he was. God had already told him. He had already told him what he was supposed to be identical to: the father of a great nation that blesses all the families of the world, or in other words, the economy. Meaning Abraham's journey wasn't about creating an identity, it was about agreement with the one God had already declared for him. And that changes everything, because that's the crux of faith. You see, freedom is uncertain by nature, but that challenges our sense of autonomy, because we want to control who we are and we want people to like us, right? But if we don't have the faith to look like what God said we are, we end up divided. Split between who he says we are and what we think the world wants us to be. You see, the root cause of an identity crisis is anxiety. And anxiety isn't just a feeling, it's a fracture. It's living your life with a divided thought. Let's look at John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32. I always love teaching on this verse, because when you really unpack it, it comes down to the difference between transactional thinking and relational thinking. But we'll talk about that on another video. So it says, "So Jesus was saying to those Jews who had believed him, 'If you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free.'" And again, I love this verse, because for the truth to make you free, you have to participate in it. And you can't just know it. This is why so many people smoke cigarettes. They see the truth right there on the box from the Surgeon General, but because they don't believe in nor participate in that truth, they'll still light up. You see, for your faith and therefore your reality to work, you have to agree with it. You have to respond to it. You have to live in harmony with it. And only then can you narrow your focus on who God said you are. But again, even with that level of clarity, some of us still won't know who we are. So let's wrap up with the last thought, and let's make this one practical. Donald Miller once said, Action is a lag indicator of identity. I just love how beautifully congruent that sounds, because I can talk to you until I'm blue in the face, but it's not until we start acting out of faith and agreement will we know our identity. So I want to give you some homework. I want to give you this simple trick that helped me design my identity, and it's been paying off very well since I even started doing it. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to write down your top 5 people that you look up to. This could be family members, it could be mentors, coaches, bosses, athletes, influencers, historical figures, maybe even animals. Anyone or anything that inspires you to be someone awesome, right? To be more awesome. And if you're doing this digitally, you can even take their picture, right? And put it next to their name. Next, I want you to write out everything that you admire about them. I want you to be as vulnerable and more specific than you've ever been before. Is it their discipline? Is it their integrity? Do they bite their nails? Is it their confidence? Maybe it's their beauty, their compassion, their strength, their humility, their success, their consistency, their education, their leadership, their family life. You know, where do they eat? Who do they admire? What books do they read? What do they do for money, right? That's the big one. And once you do all of that, once you've got your list, I want you to set aside some time and I want you to meditate on Colossians 1:15. And I want you to let that verse be your filter. And the reason for that is because you'll see that the word firstborn is used there. And that's super important because in the Greek, that word is translated as protokos. And this is where we get the English word prototype from, right? So Colossians is going to be your reminder that Jesus is the prototype of our identity, of your identity. And he's who you should be ultimately trying to strive to be identical to in your character and in your values, in your attitudes. And once you sat down with that for a while, I want you to go back to your list. And I want you to ask yourself, does this person's lifestyle or character trait contradict the standard that Jesus laid out for me? If it does, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Whatever reflects his character stays, and whatever doesn't gets rejected. And if you do this right, what you'll have at the end isn't just a list of traits that you admire, but a blueprint for who you're becoming. And then from there, the work is super simple. Just start practicing one of those traits every single day until it's second nature. And then the next, and then the next, and then the next. And then over time, what you've consistently acted on is what you'll eventually reflect back to the world. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And honestly, if this video found you in a season where you feel confused or anxious, maybe you're divided like we were talking about, or like you don't even recognize yourself anymore, I just want you to know this. You're not crazy. You are not broken, and you are not behind. You might just be standing at one of the most important decision points of your life, because sometimes an identity crisis is not proof that your life is falling apart. Sometimes it's proof that God is calling the false version of you to die, and the real version of you has to live. And if this has helped you see yourself differently, if it helped you breathe for a second, even if it just helped you realize that you don't have to find yourself in the world because your identity begins in God, then that genuinely means everything to me. I don't take it lightly that you would spend your time here with me. And I'm really grateful for every comment, every message, every person who says, man, I needed this, because I needed this too, honestly. I wish somebody would have made this for me. So thank you for watching. Thank you for growing with me. And more than anything, don't run from the crisis. I want you to pay attention to it, because it might be the place where God is trying to introduce you to who you were always becoming. So congratulations once again. I love you.